Hey everyone, it's Jenna Melanson from Canadian Beats Media. I'm here today with Jeff Ojeda from Phase Management in Vancouver, BC. Welcome, Jeff.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to kind of sit down, talk about music, and share a bit of my story.
For sure. So first off, tell us a bit how you got started with Phase Management.
Right on. So this would have been, I guess, rewind to sort of high school days. In terms of my proximity to music, I kind of always loved music my whole life. I've been playing, or I had been playing instruments. I don't anymore. Pretty well as soon as I could, and fell in love with in my teenage years. Punk rock, metal, rock, pop, that sort of thing, and sort of just continued to pursue that passion. And over the years, I started a band, did the whole thing, put a record out, booked a few tours, and realized pretty quickly that I actually didn't love basically that entire experience, except I love the business side of it and learning how to put music out and all that. And so that really intrigued me. And so I think it was that experience, like just, trying the whole band thing on my own, putting out music that kind of ignited the passion for me. And anyway, fast forward after the whole band thing, I jumped into being a guitar tech for a local band that was doing some touring, and that sort of got me into the industry. I was, going from my own little bar shows and smaller little indie shows to doing like arenas and festivals and stuff, and it was pretty legitimate. So it was kind of what catapulted me into realizing or having experience in those bigger sort of capacity settings. And then, of course, networking with people while I was there. And then while I was on the road, it's kind of a long story. While I was on the road, I downloaded Photoshop because, I needed to make a living and pay for some bills. And so that's kind of what started me into what ended up being about 7 solid years of running a graphic and branding sort of design company, and that was focused around music marketing, and just musicians in general. That kept me pretty busy for a little while, and it was sort of my into the industry on a more legitimate level. It was, I was taking calls with all the major labels, doing marketing meetings and stuff like that with the acts that I was working with. So it kind of pushed me into the real world, I guess, if you want to call it that. And through that experience, it was great because design work helped me understand, the needs of the management companies, labels, the artists, how those relationships sort of interconnect. But it also gave me a sense of scale, like, working from a very, starting out emerging artist to, say an artist that's on an indie label versus an artist on a major label, and what the scale structure sort of looks like in terms of their demands.
Mhm.
Uh, so that was really eye-opening. And I guess, fast forward into what was about year seven, I was kind of itching to pursue management full time. I had been co-managing an act with a local manager that was kind of my mentor for those 7 years. And so, yeah, I kind of just decided to take the full leap from branding and graphic design and marketing to management. And so I incorporated phase management in 2017, and I've been managing for about 7 years now.
Awesome. When it comes to management, when should a band or artist look into working with a like a management company?
That is a very good question. And you know what, honestly, I'm not sure if there's any right answer for it. I think, in terms of what a manager's appetite is, you can approach an artist at any level. If you see promise in someone super early on, and want to invest your time and yourself in sort of fostering that talent and that ability, that's one way to look at it. There are, there are essentially three different types of acts that you could manage. One being legacy, where there's already an established career, and it's more just, sustaining, say, touring, maybe greatest hits records, that style of business. There's established artists, which are, of course, that could be at any scale as well. And then developing artists. So unfortunately, where my heart lies is I love developing talent, but there's only so much you can realistically take on, because you might not see an income from, that artist for say 2 years sometimes, because it really takes time to build. But yeah, I mean, in terms of like, timing, I would say the most important thing is focus on your own business, focus on building your live setting, whether it's locally, bringing people into a room, doing things that are going to help sort of amplify your position in the market and your profile, that will attract people within the industry to come and start paying attention to what you're doing.
Is there certain prep work that you'd like to see done before a band contacts you? Like social media wise, like you said, get your show it's to a certain level.
Yeah, I think honestly, to me, the most important thing is that the artist needs to have some sense of, uh, you know, ability to understand their business. It's not all about art, and if you don't spend time realizing and learning and building your own skills and acumen as a business person, you're not going to get that far. And the truth is there's such a demand for artists these days that if you're not willing to put that work and effort in, it's going to be really hard to attract someone, like myself, for an example, that is working just as hard in a different capacity, doing different things for that artist. So I think in terms of preparation, educate yourselves, and spend the time to really understand what are the dynamics around music, how does money flow, the understanding copyright and royalties, all of those things that are inherently going to just benefit you anyway, regardless if you have a manager or agent. I think, that's the most important thing to me. And the more you know about your business, the better you'll be at it. So yeah, that would be my tip.
What makes phase management stand out from the crowd?
Good question. I think the fact that, I mean, phase management is myself. Currently, it's, kind of a one-man army, and I think what sets me apart from a lot of other managers and a lot of people or companies that are doing similar things in my space is, I bring in about a decade of experience in very acute, branding, marketing, and strategy around working artists, putting out records, happening or being involved with evolving brands, going from record to record and understanding how to open up those different sort of, visual or personality components of an artist brand. I think, yeah, I mean, those are all just kind of tools under my belt now. And I think that's a pretty cool advantage to have. Not a lot of people really understand this stuff to the degree that I do. And, a big part of me is, I'm proudly gay and I'm Latin, and there aren't a ton of managers that can, or are in similar, settings as myself or have had that experience. And so to me, I'm always speaking for the underdog. I think, my clients kind of speak to that as well. I'm very much for helping people that I truly believe in and might not be, your atypical commercial artist that you would see.
What are your 3 biggest tips for artists who are just starting out?
Spend time on your music before you record anything. Spend time on understanding what your brand voice and your story is via social media. I would say, there's so many tools available. You kind of have no excuse these days, right? And then the third one, I think the most important one is, realizing that there are only, like, as one human being, there are so many different things that are being demanded of you as an artist. You can be a great singer, a great entertainer, a good business person, good public figure, producer, songwriter, whatever it is. Really spend some time and have some honest reflection with yourself. Find the things that you're really good at, and then find the things, and even if it's asking peers for their honest opinion, find the things that you might be struggling with or need a little bit of help with. I think the more that you can kind of, check yourself in at ground zero and go, okay, the reality is no artist can do everything well at 100%. And if they do, they're probably taxing their well-being, right? And I want to make sure that, every artist out there, understands their own position. You know, you can be a great singer, but if you're not a great songwriter, then maybe don't try to run, you know, jump through hoops, you know, in a career where songwriting is sort of your number one. Don't go after a publishing deal. Go after, you know, an entertainment focus in your career, or get better at songwriting. So yeah, that's what, you know, I guess that would be my three, with the last one being the most important.
Okay. Uh, you spoke about social media a bit. I just wanted to know, do you have a preference as to which is most important nowadays?
Uh, yeah, I mean, there are some advantages to, I mean, the obvious ones being, you know, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, mostly because they're, you know, they're built in a way where you have the chance at taking strides with reels or TikToks in terms of virality. They all have this sort of centralized advertisement structure as well that's really important to sort of play into. So the engagement that you provide and the consistency that you provide on your social platforms, they're going to be benefiting you if you're going to be spending money on sort of trying to attract people, or doing sort of outreach that way with ads. But I think it's honestly dependent. You know, my personal taste has little to do with what's actually needed in the market. You know, if you're going to be doing a pop career, and say you're, you know, 22 years old, and you're you know, serving, your brand is serving a younger demographic, you should be on TikTok and Snapchat, right, and Instagram, probably not Facebook. Or it's not gonna, you should be on it, but it's probably not gonna really pay out, right? And so I think it's yeah, I think more than anything, be mindful of your brand, know your audience, and make sure that you're spending the time on the platforms that are going to best serve you, because it's impossible to, you know, confidently say that you have enough time for every social platform. It's just too much, right?
Oh, yeah.
Um, we know.
Yeah. Okay, so last but not least, do you have anything else you'd like to add for the viewers and listeners?
You know, I think more, we got to touch on some really good stuff today, but I think more than anything, it's just, you know, it's important to realize that, you know, we're all, as creatives, we're all sort of vulnerable creatures. There's a lot of, you know, the double-edged sword of the sort of hustle culture in music versus actually physically needing to work hard enough to get somewhere. It's tricky to navigate, and it certainly feels really daunting from, you know, an emerging artist perspective. But, you know, if you really spend the time and listen to your heart, listen to what your story is, and find a way to kind of, you know, make that translate sonically, I think you're going to be in a far better place. And at the end of the day, whether it, you know, you are the next Lady Gaga or not, it doesn't matter that much. What matters is that you want to know that you're leaving a legacy behind of art that you're really proud of, and art that represents who you are. And I think that's the most important.
Yes, definitely. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me.
Hey, thank you for having me.